Hi there. Today we're doing a take two on the physics podcast that we did before, based on the Piers Morgan podcast that he did with Eric Weinstein and Sean Carroll, where they were talking about string theory and Eric Weinstein's geometric unity concept in a 70-odd page paper that he wrote. And then, admittedly, they started talking about God towards the end as well, and the start of the universe, which is one of Piers Morgan's favourite questions. What came before the Big Bang? One of my favourite too, actually, as well. I've answered in the podcast towards the start of this series as well, and I'll mention that again. But look, so just coming back to the question we had on YouTube, string theory is a good theory. It may even be a very good theory, but it's not a great theory. String theory tries to harmonize general relativity and quantum mechanics, but it does so with multiple dimensions, and there's no direct experimental observation. Well, there's no observation of it, and there's no direct experiment of it as well. So that's the problem, and that's what Sean Carroll admitted was frustrating. He then did say that it was very promising and that there's a miraculous part to string theory, which is it can explain gravity without creating infinite numbers when relating to particles. And unfortunately, words like miraculous and very promising should not be applied to string theory. String theory, as I say, is a good theory, maybe a very good theory, but it's certainly not a great theory. It's a mathematical theory, and it creates dimensions we can't see. And as I say, it has resisted observation and direct experiment. So unfortunately, we have to leave string theory as a good idea, a good theory. And physics does need to apply itself elsewhere. Sean Carroll, if you're listening, we spent a lot of time on string theory, mate. It's been 40 plus years since John Schwartz and Michael Green's numbers, and 4 decades is long enough. We need to try something new. Unfortunately, string theory on its own just doesn't cut the mustard. We just need to be honest about that. And Eric Weinstein's paper certainly doesn't sound as bad as Sean Carroll suggests. So geometric unity, worth having a look at. Now, in relation to God and what came before the universe, Piers Morgan has the view that our brains are not able to conceptualize the universe, the start of the universe, and what came before the universe, and therefore there must be a superior intelligence. It's an interesting argument, and recently Richard Dawkins has said that he's open to the concept of a superior intelligence. Only he doesn't think that's the case, but he thinks it's an interesting concept. As you know, Richard Dawkins is an avowed atheist. He doesn't believe in God or a divine presence. He's very consistent about that. But he has made positive noises about a superior intelligence, even though he does make it clear he doesn't believe that can be correct. Okay, and so I suppose coming back to Piers Morgan, in relation to that discussion with Eric Weinstein and Sean Carroll that got towards the end about God and the start of the universe, what became clear is that Eric Weinstein and Sean Carroll very much believe that their task is to explain the current universe from the beginning, 13.8 billion years ago, moving forward, and to explain that. That's all very well, but time started at the start of this universe. You didn't have years prior to this universe because you didn't have space-time. I theorize, Andrew Mortimer theorizes, that you would have had a quantum precession or quantum duration, all right, that could have behaved very strangely in relation to a time arrow. In relation to what came before the current universe, it wasn't nothing. There was clearly, in my opinion, a 100-odd trillion solar mass quark star of some sort that disintegrated and blew up or imploded into what we see today, which is a colder atomic universe. So we went from a quantum precession, a 100 trillion solar mass quark star of some sort that blew up and turned into our current universe that we see with trillions of galaxies, trillions of stars, and a whole lot of heat and noise. There's very few things that could have come before the current universe. Why some scientists talk about atheism, I think, is quite astonishing, because God is meant to sit aside from space and time and and observation. So I think there's no need for a scientist to talk about God at all. It's not, and certainly a scientist can't disprove it. And of course, no scientist has disproved God. So I thought that part of it was strange. Eric Weinstein did say tellingly that if his theories are correct, then it should be demotivating. That was the word he used, demotivating, as to what came before the universe, because you've got an explanation of this universe. But as far as I'm concerned, if you look at this current universe, what's in it, and use some simple principles of common sense and logic, you can infer correctly what came before this universe, before 13.8 billion years ago, what it was, and what it was would have had to have a lot of matter and energy, which has then become unstable and exploded into our current expanding and colder atomic universe. Anyway, it was a very interesting discussion. They got onto all sorts of topics, but we're a long way away from finding all these answers. And that's why I'm hopeful, as I said in my last podcast, take one, that large language models can actually, and AI can answer some of these issues with all of the data. Because the rest of us are getting a bit weary. We're certainly weary of string theory. Anyway, please tell me what you think. Thanks.